Has America canceled its strategic Bitcoin reserve? What do we know? But, you know, Scott Bessent and Donald Trump have had the time to push for laws like the Genius Act and the Clarity Act that literally don't do anything for Bitcoin. But we haven't heard anything about the strategic Bitcoin reserve in months. But that could all be changing very soon. The executive director of the SBR, Patrick Witt, just revealed that a huge announcement, his words, not mine, could be coming sooner than you think. So let's take a listen to what he said, and then I will try to unpack and, I guess, speculate of what this huge announcement will be. So here's the clip. And if you watch the Bitcoin conference, you probably heard a similar tagline, but in this clip that we heard, this is on the Wolf of All Streets podcast, now on Yahoo. He does kind of give us some hints here, and that's what I'll be talking about. Obviously, from everyone's perspective, the idea is if the U.S. buys Bitcoin, the game theory kicks in, and then everyone else starts the race of acquiring Bitcoin. The only reason we really care is because that would probably mean number goes up. That's all we care about. Let's be honest, all we care about at this point. Number goes up. Actually, before I go and play this clip, I know I'm blowing today's retention, but I was looking at the price. I'm like, we are literally at the same price we were when Donald Trump got elected in November 2024. We have gone sideways for a year and a half. We got a big executive order announcement. Literally nothing has happened since. It's almost like nothing ever happens. Anyways, before I crash out on the show, let's play this clip and then I'll unpack it.
There's still work going on behind the scenes. We never, put it down. We never stopped working on it, but it was one of those things that Clarity was dominating all the headlines, sucking up all the oxygen in the room. But Harry has really led the charge on that. Harry Jung, my deputy, and done an incredible job working through just the interagency process. The executive order obviously tasks certain agencies to work this out, but that's usually just a starting gun. And then it's like, all right, actually do the work. What legal memos need to be drafted? What authorities do we have? Do we have the appropriate authorities? So working through all of that takes time, and Harry has done an incredible job of bird dogging that and staying on top of it. And it's really been a team effort with Stephen Miller's team, DCOSP, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, who their group is really responsible for making sure that all the executive orders that have been signed are being followed through on. And so we'll have an announcement. I wish I could say more at this time, but I think we're still within the window that I gave myself.
Yeah, we're at an announcement of an announcement phase still.
But no, it's a breakthrough as far as getting everything in place, legally sound, properly safeguarding the assets. We obviously were working on the SBR ever since the executive order was signed, and then the theft of assets from the U.S. Marshals for some of the tier 2 assets, if you follow that story, was really just kind of like a great proof point that we really need to take this seriously. These assets have to be safeguarded. They are unique. It's going to require the government to do this in a bit of a different way, and obviously take it very, very seriously because we have more of these assets on the balance sheet.
Okay, so we will unpack this, but first of all, guys, forgive my 10-year-old boy humor, but the guy's name is Harry John. Okay. Anyways, just unpacking this a little bit. Obviously, in the clip, the big headline, or rather the big, I don't want to necessarily say excuse per se, but he did specifically say that the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, that took all of the attention in the headlines. And being lenient here, being a little less cynical about it, I would argue that that's probably the case as well. But again, as far as we know from the headlines, we have literally heard basically nothing from the strategic Bitcoin reserve since the executive order from Donald Trump. Now, we've been speculating on this show for a while that there probably, at least it makes the most sense, that you would announce this and then you would be silently buying Bitcoin behind the scenes. You don't necessarily telegraph every single Bitcoin buy that you do. I've always been of the opinion that we will probably get a Bitcoin strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement once they got their bags packed. And if we're looking at the price action, that theory, my gut feeling of this does kind of play into it. I've been calling it for a long time the billionaire FUD playbook, where you essentially FUD Bitcoin, you hopefully try to get the price to go lower, you buy Bitcoin at the lows, and then once your bags are packed, you start announcing, oh yeah, we actually bought Bitcoin, and then the price starts running. That's usually been my framework here for what is probably going to happen. But again, that's just kind of my thinking, overall thinking of where we've been at. So just to unpack a little bit of what he said, obviously the big headline was there's been a breakthrough in the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, when you listen to that clip, he specifically said breakthrough from like the legal perspective. So we don't know exactly what he is talking about here. Obviously, is he alluding to the Clarity Act? Or I do have another update that just came out this morning from the Trump administration, which could potentially be a leak for this legal breakthrough. Now, what would be the legalities of this? Maybe it goes into what I've been saying. Again, I am not the most politically savvy person, but I would expect that there are some kind of red tape that the Trump administration would have to go through for them to, quote, legally be buying Bitcoin. Because we've heard the narrative for the longest time is budget neutral ways of acquiring Bitcoin. Now, when this initial announcement came out over a year ago, I was very adamant that, well, actually, I was very adamant, but I was also trolling when I said this, that the most budget-friendly way to do this is just to seize Bitcoin. And obviously, we've heard that story continue. In particular, that 120-something thousand coins that were taken from that hack group. I believe it was the Chinese hack group, because there was this war between China and America and who actually owns this Bitcoin. And further, if these are seized Bitcoin from a hacking group that is now in the custody of the United States government, and they've been saying we are never going to sell any Bitcoin, does that mean that the victims of these hacking groups will never get their Bitcoin back? These are all topics we've covered on this show. And so if this is just a legal jargon breakthrough, then I'm kind of the opinion this is going to be a nothing burger. Like, yeah, we're going to get a huge announcement coming for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's probably going to be a nothing burger. It's probably going to be a nothing ever happens moment here. But being less cynical about this, there is a few things in that clip that I did find interesting. Obviously, the one that is less of me speculating and more of his words and what he said, it's the custody aspect of these assets that they hold, whether it's Bitcoin or the other shitcoins. And he in particularly mentioned that U.S. Marshal story that we covered couple of months ago, where a son of the U.S. Marshal that was given the power to custody these digital assets, he basically stole them from his father, and then he was out on social media flexing how rich he was and how much crypto he has. And that obviously brought up the idea of, well, if we are holding all of these 300,000 plus Bitcoin, what is the custody aspects of this? And further, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of government. Governments are usually pretty incompetent, and this story in and of itself showed the incompetence of our current situation, again being lenient, our current situation of how they are custodying these Bitcoins and digital assets, and then them getting hacked. And then further, again, the biggest strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement that we haven't gotten yet was, do we actually even have all of the Bitcoin that is claimed to be owned by the United States government? We haven't even gotten the audit of, did we have the 200,000 coins to begin with? Did the Biden administration start selling their Bitcoin reserves before the Trump administration got in, just to spite this strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement? Like, we don't even have the basic questions answered here of, do we own the Bitcoin we claim to own? Or is this just all fugazi? This is just a narrative here. Yeah, we supposedly own 320. Actually, let me pull it up. I'll give you the official numbers here, at least from Bitcoin treasuries, of how much Bitcoin we currently own. It's over 320,000. but I don't remember on the top of my head the exact number. Okay, so here it is. The official or the unofficial official number is 328,372 Bitcoin. Oh, sorry, I didn't pull it up. That's the unofficial official number. That's the claim. That's our assumption here. And we still haven't gotten an audit on the U.S. government's holdings of Bitcoin. But as Patrick Witt was saying, again, the executive director of the Presidential Council on Digital Assets, that's the official title, he's basically, at the very least, alluding to this idea of, hey, we got to update our custody. So if we do get some kind of announcement that's much more than just legal, some legalese here, and it is about how they are going to custody that Bitcoin, I guess in that respect, maybe it's a bigger announcement, and maybe it'll be less of a nothing burger. Obviously, it's like, okay, cool, you guys have updated your custody of your Bitcoin holdings. That probably should have happened months ago. But hey, governments move very slowly, okay? Now, the part where I can kind of speculate on, where I will speculate a little bit on, is it was a very vague way of him explaining it, but he did say we are, quote, working on it behind the scenes. Now, again, could that just be legalese? Could that just be working on how they're going to actually custody this Bitcoin? Is this just them trying to cut through the red tape, or is this working on it kind of a very vague way of them saying like, yeah, we have been acquiring Bitcoin? Now, obviously, we are here, at least here at Simply Bitcoin, and you guys in the chat, we are very big on the idea of the separation of money and state. And when this initially came out, there was a huge conversation of why are we cheering on the biggest nation state in the world acquiring Bitcoin? That's kind of counterintuitive to the message of the separation of money and state. If the state is acquiring the Bitcoin, then we're really not separating money from state. Obviously, you can go into the nuance. It's really like, yeah, everyone's going to be holding Bitcoin, but the fact that they can no longer, or at least they're being forced into a more fiscally conservative avenue where they don't have the power of the money printer, then I guess it's still the separation of money and state. But putting that conversation aside, it could just be me being optimistic here in the sense of what's going on with the strategic behind what's going on behind the scenes with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But it did kind of sound to me that it wasn't the same way, or wasn't the same data point, the same bullet point of the legal breakthrough. We've been working on it behind the scenes. Like, what would that even entail? Yeah, you said we're getting better at custodying this coin. We have a legal breakthrough, but then we're silently working on it behind the scenes. Is that a very vague way of saying that, yeah, we've been acquiring Bitcoin? Like, it's just so obvious to me that if you came out, you said you were going to get into Bitcoin, and you've literally not bought in Bitcoin in over a year and a half, like what even is this thing? Yeah, okay, you're never going to sell Bitcoin. Yeah, you're going to seize Bitcoin. All the seized Bitcoin that you get, yeah, you're never going to sell it. But budget neutral has been the big restraining words here, the restraining phrase throughout this whole process. But working on it behind the scenes, I'm like, I don't know. That's probably a very vague way of saying like, yeah, we are actually buying Bitcoin. But again, I'm speculating on this. It just makes perfect sense to me that if you have a lot of money, the last thing you want to do is announce every single Bitcoin buy, because as we've seen with Saylor, he's been telegraphing all of these Bitcoin buys, and Wall Street algorithm traders, Jane Street, the big banks, it does look, at least we can speculate, that they are actively counter trading Saylor's buys. Now, look, we have some data here, and there's been an even bigger conversation around the Trump administration's insider trading going on and how much trades are going. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, I don't have the number on top of my head of how many trades Trump has made personally, but it's something like 40 trades a day. And you're telling me like, yeah, that part of those trades are not just acquiring Bitcoin or call options or puts. I mean, I saw JD Vance this morning say like, wait, look, Trump is not insider trading. He has someone trading for him. He's like, okay, so like he's got a proxy insider trading for him. Got it. Okay. All right, cool. Like that makes me feel so much better about where we are right now. But anyways, it goes back to the same idea. It's like if you announce that you are going to get into Bitcoin, you don't announce every single buy. Like even telling people, even telegraphing that you're going to get into Bitcoin, that forces the conversation, that forces your action to have to buy Bitcoin. You don't just say, yeah, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And then like, I don't know, you wait a year and a half and not buy Bitcoin. I mean, if they did wait though, it is a good trade. If you're being like a little more cynical about this, it's like, okay, November 2024, the price was basically where we are right now. Literally, the price was where we are today. In November of 2024, it was a 76-ish rounding error here Bitcoin price. You have a year and a half to get all the legal paperwork in. And then you get the same exact price that you announced. It would have not been a bad trade to wait, have your capital sitting. Like from an individual perspective, it makes a lot of sense. It's like, yeah, okay, we announced it, the price went up. I'm going to wait till the price goes back down. And then I start getting into the market. I start building my position. It's not out of the realm of possibilities, but obviously I'm speculating on what exactly is going to happen. And we really don't even have a timeline. He's like, in a few weeks, is that 1, 2, 3, 6? Who knows what's going on here? Again, probably going to be a nothing burger. This is probably going to be a like classic buy the rumor, sell the, wait, no, what is it? Yeah, buy the rumor, sell the hype moment. It's like we're probably going to hear something. We'll probably hear an announcement is coming. Like we are literally like, what's the guy's name? Scott Melker of The Wolf of Wall Street says it's like we are at the announcement of the announcement stage. It's like, dude, the whole world has become a shitcoin casino. We are doing announcements of announcements. It's not just on Twitter. It's coming on Yahoo News now, Yahoo Finance. It's coming from CNN and Fox. The whole world is trading like a shitcoin right now. So we're at the announcement of an announcement phase. Maybe it's an announcement of an announcement of an announcement. And in like a week or two, we're going to get like, okay, it's coming next week. Big news is coming next week. We get the announcement and it's like absolutely nothing. It's like, oh yeah, now we have the legal framework for us to actually get into Bitcoin. Now, I guess that might be a win if you are still of the idea that the game theory is going to play out, that once the U.S. basically either, one, buys Bitcoin or telegraphs that they're going to buy Bitcoin, that everyone else starts to realize, yeah, we need to get into it. Now, that does lead into what Senator Lummis has been saying on Twitter. Obviously, the Bitcoin senator, she tweeted yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. I didn't really even look at the time. But she said, and we've heard this before, if the U.S. doesn't do it, China's already doing it. Russia's already doing it. And we've been covering these news stories. We've been seeing the data points that is in fact happening. Now, if we aren't buying Bitcoin and they're buying Bitcoin, then the race to who has the most Bitcoin under nation state control, it could be happening silently as we speak, which has been kind of my opinion throughout this whole process. You don't just telegraph you're going to buy Bitcoin. You actually buy Bitcoin while you're saying you're going to be buying Bitcoin. And then once your bags are packed, that's when you launch it. And like, yeah, look, we've acquired, I don't know, another 100,000, 200,000 coins. Like that just makes the most sense to me. But here we are. We got a strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement or announcement of an announcement. And it's like, yeah, maybe we're getting our custody together. We have a legal breakthrough, but we've been working on it behind the scenes. And just the vagueness of it, I'm like, that either means they've just been researching it. Again, the legal code. But could it possibly mean, is there a non-zero chance it means they're buying Bitcoin? And I'm not even here championing that. I'm just saying it's a very big possibility. Now, that's what Patrick Witt is saying. He obviously said at the Bitcoin conference, we'll have to wait to see what this announcement even is. But we did get a news story this morning that does, I think, add a little more color to the legal breakthrough angle of what Patrick Witt is saying. And, oops, sorry, wrong one. And it is this. Trump orders the Fed to review crypto access to U.S. payment rails. President Trump signed another executive order here on Tuesday, instructing the Federal Reserve and other regulators to dismantle longstanding, excuse me, sorry. And forgive me, my voice. I don't know what's going on. I think I might be getting sick. I don't know what's happening right now, but we're powering through. All right, guys. Anyways, Trump signed another executive order Tuesday instructing the Federal Reserve and other regulators to dismantle long-standing barriers that have excluded crypto and fintech firms from the U.S. payment system, escalating a years-long battle over access. So President Trump signed this executive order yesterday directing the Federal Reserve and other financial regulators to tear down barriers that have long kept crypto and fintech firms on the outside of the U.S. payment system, a move that puts the central bank at the center of a fight that has been building for years. Now, what is interesting here is the timing. Jerome Powell's out. Kevin Warsh is now the new head of the Fed, the new Fed chair. That was what, Monday. On Tuesday, we get a new executive order basically saying, hey, Fed, you got to give these crypto and fintech companies master accounts. So the order, titled Integrating Financial Technology Innovation into Regulatory Frameworks, calls on the heads of federal financial agencies to audit existing rules within 3 months and identify regulations that unduly impede fintech firms from partnering with federally regulated institutions. Within 6 months, regulators must act on what they find. At its core, the order targets the Federal Reserve's control over master accounts, the gateway to payment rails like FedWire that handle high-value dollar settlement across the financial system. Those accounts have historically been reserved for licensed depository institutions, a wall that forced crypto companies seeking direct payment access to pursue costly state or federal banking charters. The order asks the Fed to do two things: evaluate whether its framework can be extended to non-bank fintech and crypto firms, and clarify whether the 12 regional Federal Reserve banks have independent authority to approve or deny master account applications without direction from the Board of Governors in Washington. Now, we do know Kraken got a Federal Reserve master account, and so there is some precedent there. But again, in light of what Patrick Witt said on Monday and the timing of Kevin Warsh, who we know is a Bitcoiner, at least was a Bitcoiner, at least we have some good sound bites coming out of Kevin Warsh being, essentially it was, what was it? Like Bitcoin is digital gold for people under 40. He's now heading the Fed chair. The following day, we get this new executive order being like, yeah, let's give more crypto and fintech companies master accounts at the Fed. Let's see what the framework's doing. Let's try to clear some of that red tape. Maybe I'm connecting dots that aren't there, but it does sound, as Patrick Witt said, that some of the legal breakthroughs are happening in real time. So it just makes you wonder what exactly is going on behind the scenes. Again, going on Patrick Witt's word here, they haven't stopped working on it, which I guess it's just, paperwork. They've been doing paper, guys. The government has been doing paperwork. The U.S. government has been doing paperwork on the SBR for the last 18 months. Just chill out. The next 3 to 6 months, maybe the next week or two, they're going to actually start doing something. All right. We're going to get something concrete in the next few weeks, much more than just paperwork. Okay. Trust us. We are the government. We're here to help you. We'll see, guys. Kevin Crash or Kevin Pump. I don't know, man. I don't know. I have no idea. Is the bottom in, man? I don't know, dude. At this point, Scott Bassett is watching. I know I should have probably been less crazy on today's show. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, look. Let me know what you think in the chat. Maybe maybe this is me just being very cynical of the political process. Well, I am cynical of the political process, just full stop. That's totally, guilty as charged. Now I'm literally at the point where like I'm completely burnt out, cynical, could care less about what is going on with Washington and Bitcoin at this point. Like the Clarity Act looks like a hot piece of garbage. We haven't heard anything about the SBR. It seems like, I was right. I was right on this. I didn't vote for Trump for this basic very reason. I don't believe in politicians. I don't really believe that voting will fix the system. At this point, I become so cynical that I'm truly like, maybe I'm like 99% sure that all of the conversations coming from, or rather all of the statements and the wow, I'm blanking on what the word is. All of the things that Trump promised us, it was just a reason for us to vote for him. At this point, guys, that's where I am. Dude, another politician scammed us. Me and everyone in the chat were right about it. It's like they don't really care. That's where I'm at right now. They don't really care about Bitcoin. Now the midterms are going to, start to ramp up here pretty soon. And watch, we are going to see even more rhetoric around, hey, we're more pro Bitcoin or we're more pro digital assets. Like they are going to do whatever they can to scam you out of your vote. See, here at Simply Bitcoin, we scam you for profits. In the sense, I scam you into you gaining profits, though in the last year hasn't really worked out. I clickbait you so that you believe in Bitcoin, so that you can buy Bitcoin for the long run and your wealth increases. We know what politicians do. They just scam you for your vote, and then they tell you, hey, peasant, F off. We don't really care what you think. You already got us in the office. We don't have to follow through on any of the things we promise you. That's where I'm at right now, okay? Call me cynical. Maybe it's, bear market blues, whatever you want to say. But that's where I'm at right now with Washington, D.C. embracing Bitcoin. I guess my initial gut reaction was correct, okay? I guess we were right. It scams us. Oh, man, yeah. It's true. It's true. All right, guys. I'm going to keep it moving. All right, look, I'm going to have a little fun today. It's, Wednesday, hump day. Did you guys see that Kevin O'Leary clip going around Twitter? It was all I saw this morning. The Millennials Buy Avocado Toast has now been refashioned for the Zoomer generation. And man, this clip, everyone's freaking out about this clip on Twitter. It's man. Boomer yells at young kid for spending habits. Let's not talk about the root problem here. And then later on, there is an interesting Federal Reserve poll coming out in terms of how many people are holding Bitcoin in the U.S., which I do want to chat about a little bit. And then if I have enough time, because I do have Lauren Emily Rodriguez, Keonne Rodriguez's wife, the Samourai Wallet Dev, coming on today. We're going to be chatting about that process. And of course, when we highlighted the Clarity Act, we highlighted one of her tweets, which was in regards to the Section 301 about where it was like pro protecting open source developers. So she's going to be on in about 30 minutes. So if I have enough time, I'll cover all of that. Special show today. So on that note, I will keep it moving. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, sorry guys, I'm chatting in the Rumble hack. 1 second. Okay. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is $77,330. The discount from all-time high is 38.7%, and the market cap is, hey, we went up a little bit, 1.55 trillion. The block height, TikTok next block, is 950,264. I did see we are less than 100,000 blocks till the next halving. I know it sounds close, but still a little ways away. But hey, we made a good number. All right, guys. This is a short clip. You know, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. He has been very like pro crypto recently. He's out there on the headlines in the corporate press being like Bitcoin's going to go up once Clarity Act passes. This is not the conversation we're having today, because I saw this clip, and maybe it was just because I liked the first one, that it literally seemed like this was the only thing on my timeline this morning. And man, as a millennial here, you know, I remember the meme, the idea of like, yeah, well, the reason you're broke, bro, is because you're buying avocado toast and it's like $12 for a piece of toast. Well, it has been rebranded. This clip, and also before I go hard on it, pause. Hey, yo, pause. Full disclosure, trigger warning. I might go a little savage on the boomers here, but let me just watch the clip. Let me have you watch the clip, and then we'll chat about it.
Can't stand it when I see kids that are making 70 grand a year spending $28 for lunch. I mean, that's just stupid. It's just, think about that in the context of that being put into an index and making 8 to 10% a year for the next 50 years.
Hey, yo, guys. Hey, you peasants out there. Hey, you non-billionaires out there. You don't get the luxury of food anymore, okay? Don't eat lunch, because you could put it in an index fund and you can get a return in 50 years. Hot financial take. Don't eat lunch. Just put it in an index fund. You'll be rich in, half a century. Anyways. I do have some funny tweets here. Just because this is where it starts getting funny for me. So this is the first one here. This guy, Ben Clare, goes, a loaf of bread is, let me pull it up. A loaf of bread is $5. Peanut butter is $4. Jelly is $4. An 18-pack of chips equal $12. A bag of apples is $5. Total $30. And you have lunch for an entire week or two. $2 to $4 average per day. Inflation isn't the problem. Your spending habits are. And then someone goes, if you eat in nutritional poverty for a year, you'll save enough money to purchase absolutely nothing better in your life whatsoever. So, look, if you're broke right now, then you should eat like a 5-year-old. And in 50 years, you're going to be rich if you put it in an index fund. Let's not talk about the reason why your lunch is $28. I'm guessing that $28 lunch is like, I don't know, a sandwich, a drink, and like maybe a bag of chips. Yeah, maybe it's a little fancier. I know. Well, I went to Jimmy John's the other day. It was like $16 with tips. So yeah, maybe a little more. I went and got a burger the other day and it was like $20-something, and it was just like a triple stacked burger, grass-fed burger with tallow fries. Nothing too crazy. Yeah, maybe it's a little fancier, but hey, man, I'm not trying to eat like a 10-year-old here and then put my money for 50 years away in an index fund. Like, what are we talking about? I saw a good tweet saying like, yeah, let's not talk about the fact that Kevin O'Leary has restaurants that charge you $12 for fries. Like, what is going on here? Anyways, I got more. John Carter, look at these economically illiterate morons spending money on luxuries like food. Don't eat, guys. You want to be rich? Don't eat. It's way better. Now, okay, I'm trolling. To some extent, I do believe he is, directionally correct. As a Bitcoiner, we've all done the same thing where you cut back on your expenses. Yeah, maybe you don't go eat out for lunch and you make a lunch at home. Maybe you don't go buy that, I don't know what Starbucks costs now, like $6 coffee, and you make some coffee at home. Wherever you can, not spend money and still have a very similar lifestyle so that you can buy more Bitcoin. I've done that. You've done that. I think all Bitcoiners go through that idea of like, yeah, maybe I can cut back on my spending so that I can buy more Bitcoin. The classic meme, sell all your shares. Totally, I think seemingly smart advice. Like, yes, that is something you can do. But like that original tweet that was trying to make the case that Kevin O'Leary was correct, inflation isn't the problem, it's your spending habits. It's like, what? So yeah, okay. On the one hand, yeah, you probably shouldn't be buying a $28 lunch every single day. On the other hand, it's like, can we talk about why the lunch is $28 now and you're literally basically just getting like a Subway sandwich? Remember when Subway footlong were $6? Last time I checked, they were like $16. Do people really not remember the statistic that like, 60% of all dollars ever created have been printed since 2020? So instead of being like, yeah, look, I get it, there is a problem, and yeah, you should probably cut back on your expenses, they're not going to the root problem, which is they are destroying your purchasing power. They are literally printing money out of thin air. They have to continue to print money out of thin air. They have to continue to destroy your purchasing power to keep the train going. And there's no exit from this. So if you think life is more expensive today, that $28 lunch is going to be, I don't know, $30 next year. $34 2, 3, 4 years from now. Like, the spending problem isn't my problem here. The spending problem is coming from the government, from the institutions, from the Federal Reserve, the central banks. They have the real spending problem. They are printing money out of thin air. It is destroying our purchasing power. And it is kind of interesting because, again, I'm a millennial. And yeah, I definitely leaned into the, like, oh, you're eating whatever, $8 avocado toast, which at the time was expensive. And like, why are you doing that? Buy, do something else with that. Like you shouldn't be doing that every single day. Now that I'm like, I'm a little older. I think now that it's been rebranded to the Zoomers, like you poor Zoomers that are literally like never going to own a house, never going to have any retirement because Medicare, Medicaid, it's already bankrupt. Like you literally have no prospects for the future. But, just don't buy that $28 lunch. That's literally barely any food. And put it in an index fund, get 20% for the next 50 years. And hey, magically one day you're going to be rich. It's like what for most people, no amount of saving your money is going to get you out of this poverty situation that we live in. Like no amount of saving is going to make you extremely rich. It's not how this works. You need to make more money, need more cash flow, but further, you need to save in a better money. The dollar is broken. They will continue to print money. They will continue to destroy your purchasing power. And now we have, Kevin O'Leary, who's supposedly a Bitcoiner, and being a little general here, we have the boomers out here now just continuing to yell at us and be like, look, man, just work harder, cut back more on your savings. Like, don't focus on the fact that we've destroyed your purchasing power. Don't focus on the fact that literally nothing is cheap anymore, that we are being protected with our net worth because of our rent capping, and make sure that we maintain our capital gains on our rent so that we feel rich. But don't worry about that. Just, work another job and eat like a freaking 10-year-old for the rest of your life, and then work for another 50 years. Where like they had a cheaper world. They make more money in retirement now than they probably made when they worked. The money is broken. The money is broken. No amount of saving in dollars is going to save you. That's probably the biggest thing that does trigger me. It's like no amount of saving in dollars is going to make you rich. Now, saving in Bitcoin is a different conversation, but in the last year and a half, like, we're literally at the same price that we were before. So it's not just you need to save your money, or rather save in Bitcoin. You want to make sure you're getting more money, more cash flow, so that you can save more in Bitcoin. But it's just crazy that we have Kevin O'Leary here. Like, I'm pretty sure he is a billionaire, right? Just yelling at, it's like the old man yells at clouds. He's yelling at the kids like, eat like a peasant, bro, and you're going to be rich in 50 years. Like, we can't even eat food anymore. That's how bad this situation is going. We're getting yelled at for eating food. Crazy, crazy clown world we are living in, boys. Anyways, let's breakfast is $2. Where? Okay, guys. Let's keep it moving. Oh, yeah, I got enough time. I'll probably cover both of the news stories as I wait for Lauren, the wife of Keonne Rodriguez, the incarcerated Samourai Wallet Dev, and we will chat about that whole saga and her concern with the Clarity Act. So I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Wait, before I go on, Kudis on Rumble. Food for me, but not for the dude. Let them eat cake. It's almost like we've done this before. It's almost like history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Okay. Anyways, I saw this morning, and we've had this conversation on the show. I think it was Nico and I. Was that Monday? Maybe it was Friday. Anyways, the Federal Reserve did a survey, and it goes, new survey finds that 10% of U.S. adults use or own crypto. Now, I think what really caught my attention in the first place was like 10% seems kind of high, right? Like 10% seems kind of high. But when you read the article, I think it really starts to show you where what we consider here as simply Bitcoin, as Bitcoiners, what we consider use Bitcoin differentiates from what maybe the majority of people think using Bitcoin actually means. And I think this still goes into we're still very early. So again, Federal Reserve survey found that 10% of American adults used or own cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin at the end of 2025. That was up from 7% of adults who were involved with cryptocurrencies at the end of 2024. It did say that, they found that they use Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, but that it helped retail investors access digital assets. Now, I think this is where it gets a little interesting. It goes, the Fed survey, of course, based on a nationally representative sample of nearly 13,000 adults, survey in October of 2025. While crypto use and ownership rose year over year in 2025, it remains below the 12% peak seen in 2022 prior to the implosion of cryptocurrency exchange FTX, which I have been saying. FTX was like the last time we had some frothy retail FOMO, and we're still down. We're still feeling the pain of FTX blowing up. I remember having a conversation with someone, and they did the what about the Bitcoin CEO? That one guy, his name is like 3 letters. And I'm like, SBF? Like, that's not the Bitcoin CEO. So people still connect Bitcoin with FTX. Now, the latest data shows that most American adults held cryptocurrency as an investment, making, quote, investment exposure the largest participation category. Only a small share of people use Bitcoin and other crypto for payments or money transfers, according to the survey. The Federal Reserve has said previously that most Americans treat cryptocurrencies as a speculative investment rather than money. And I think this is where we really kind of start to define what we mean by Bitcoin adoption. Yeah, maybe 10% of the U.S. population has either like a Bitcoin shitcoin ETF, or they may be a traded shitcoin, or they had one on an exchange. But when we consider usage, it's this idea of Bitcoin as money, that you store your value in it, you exchange your value with it, you use it as a unit of account. Sorry, guys. And this is where the conversation goes of like, I think the true adoption of Bitcoin as we kind of view it as our money, as the best money, is a lot lower than that 10%. It's probably under 1%. So there's still a lot of work to be done, guys. Everyone still views Bitcoin as just a way to make more dollars. We are still the lucky small group of people, or the intolerant minority, however you want to call it, that use, or rather consider, Bitcoin as the best money, best store of value, best way to transact on the internet, digital peer-to-peer money, digital gold, however you want to frame it. The game is still early in that sense of adoption. But I do want to move on because we do have Lauren Rodriguez, the wife of Keonne Rodriguez, behind the scenes. So last commercial break, and then we are going to do a very special interview. So I'll be right back in 1 second.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming today. We're truly honored to have you on the show. Obviously, first of all, our condolences. You know, we have literally been covering this whole process since the very beginning. We actually were covering it before with the tornado cash. We're like, this is very concerning news, and that's really when we started to get a little more political. We started to kind of look at the attack vectors, and then the Samourai Wallet story happened, and we were like, we knew this was going to happen. We knew there was a war on privacy. So we're truly honored to have you here today. But first, I think you can hear me. Let's see if I can hear you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay. I got you. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Look, first off, I maybe just introduce yourself, and then I think I want to kind of start at the beginning of the story here, and then we can cover, because we highlighted your tweet in regards to the Clarity Act, and I know that's what we want to get into, but I think for the audience here to maybe get a little more of like the human aspect of what's going on, let's just talk to you as a person first and foremost, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. So let's start with, Lauren, for those people, because we do have audio listeners, so they might not see the visuals here. You know, who are you? And then we'll talk about maybe the initial kind of court case, and then we'll get into the more recent Clarity Act stuff. So Lauren, again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me on. Like you said, my name's Lauren Rodriguez, and my husband, Keonne Rodriguez, who was the co-founder of Samourai Wallet, and his co-founder, William Hill, are currently both in federal prison for their development of the non-custodial open source Bitcoin wallet, Samourai Wallet. They developed and were building the wallet for about 10 years until April 24th, 2024. Pre-dawn raid on our home, and then simultaneously on Bill's home in Portugal, we were raided by the FBI. There was loudspeakers announcing, "Come out with your hands up." Our house was surrounded. We had laser sights from, rifles pointed at our hearts on both our chests, and, we were handcuffed and separated. And at that point, it was, again, just being woken up, and it was startling and kind of like, do they have the wrong house? Like, it was just such a show of force. They had an MRAP, and they flew a drone through the front door. And we came to find out that no, they were after Keonne, my husband, for his development of Samourai Wallet. This is the first interaction we ever had with anyone from US law enforcement or government in any way. They never, asked to write to say, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you building? Can you help us? We think criminals might be using your software, nothing like that. And they were charged with 2 conspiracy counts: conspiracy to money launder and conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money service business. So that's kind of why I'm now here. We can get into the case more if you'd like, but it was, as you said, you guys have been following it since the beginning. So it's been almost 2.5 years now that since this all happened, and it's still crazy to think about that. You had kind of alluded to before the tornado cash case that developers in the space and just Bitcoiners in general, I think we were focused on, the government's put out these kind of regulatory guidelines somewhat, and we're going to build within their framework, but kind of outside. Like we're outside the system. We want to be left alone. But the tornado cash, and now our case, and there's others as well that say, you might want to be left alone. You might be building things in a way that they should be leaving you alone. But the government, if they see it differently, and if agents within the government, such as the AUSAs who charged and indicted us, see it differently, then there's nothing really stopping them coming after you.
Yeah, 100%. And I know I don't want to put you on the spot to say anything that, can potentially get more of a backlash here. But from my view of the case in general, just from what I saw at SDNY, it did seem like they were essentially, for lack of better terms, like fitting the data to get the result that they wanted, to get the conviction that they wanted. And again, I don't know if you can talk about it like that. So I will say that, but that was like my biggest takeaway from it. It's like they already knew what they wanted to do. And then all the, the court evidence was just to frame. Well, frame might be a little hard, a little, legally too far. But again, I don't know the legalese of this, but that was my biggest takeaway from the court case.
I completely agree. So, the evidence, I'll say that they presented, they determined, and the prosecutor said this within the case, that the conspiracy they felt was at inception. So at the decision that Keonne and Bill decided to develop Samourai Wallet, that was the conspiracy. And that's clearly not true, if anyone knows that. And the way that they used to prove this was from publicly made tweets and posts, private messages taken out of context. A lot of it was like memes or, again, things completely twisted. And if when we got into Bitcoin, it was still magical internet money, and there was, unicorns and dragons, and it was like that kind of mentality, and lots of jokes and memes. And that's, they didn't have a large budget, and so there wasn't any marketing department or anything like that. But they were following legal advice, and legal advice that was looking at FinCEN, who's the regulator in charge of money transmission and BSA and kind of the application of all those laws. And they had actually put out really good guidance in 2013 and then reiterated it in 2019, saying that as long as don't take custody of users' funds, you are not a money transmitter. And they even had a special designation for anonymizing software providers. So this directly applied to Samourai Wallet and their CoinJoin implementation, which was Whirlpool. So much so that the prosecution went to FinCEN 6 months prior to indictment and asked them, FinCEN, you're the regulator in charge, do you think they're in violation of these laws? And FinCEN said emphatically no. Yet they brought charges anyways, and they pursued this case. So, when you have government agencies fighting against the regulators within their same government, how can you have a fair trial, right? These laws that they're saying that Samourai Wallet as a non-custodial Bitcoin wallet was in violation of our laws that custodial entities such as, the legacy system banks or money order services, stuff like that they fall within. And if these companies, these large international banks, fall foul, they're given notices and warnings that, hey, you might be in violation. And then if charges are brought, they're brought corporately and civilly, not criminally. And then if there are any penalties, they are generally fines. They're not throwing the CEO and CTO of HSBC or and these other banks in prison for years, even though they are entities that need to follow BSA regulations such as KYC and AML. And when they do violate it, and we've seen cases where they've knowingly violated and laundered money for people such as Epstein, and yet they get a slap on the wrist and a fine and no one's in prison. But cryptocurrency privacy software developers are sitting in prison currently.
Yeah, it's we've been making similar cases on this show for years at this point, that they are not only actively fighting privacy software currently, attacking open source developers, but when we saw the Tornado Cash case at first, it was a few months before this case was public to everyone, we were very adamant, like, this is precedent being set. And then the Samourai Wallet Dev was even further precedent being set. And it was, like you said, it was a very much we got to make an example out of this because of the memes, and basically try to stop this from expanding and more people using it. And we were like, this is not this is completely opposite first from the framing and the narrative that we were hearing from the administration. And then second, it's like, this is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, what exactly is going on right now? And it's hard to wrap your head around that idea that it's like, it seems sometimes that Bitcoin is a lot bigger and Bitcoiners are a lot bigger than we really are. And we forget we're still very tiny. And then they make an example like this and it's like, wow. So we are actually doing what we say we're doing. And, it's not just fun and games. Like, there is very serious consequences happening right now. And it kind of just blows your mind that, they'd freak out over a wallet, basically. And then further, the other big contention is exactly what you said. Like, what does it mean to be a money transmitter if you're not actually holding the keys to the coin? And from what we all thought up until that point, it's like, that's the one thing that if you didn't have access to the Bitcoin, didn't have access to the client funds, then it's like, I'm not really liable to this. And then it almost seemed like an enforcement by prosecution. They're like, no, it's because you were saying memes. You knew that people were going to do bad things with it. And they're like, yeah, but like, we don't control this. We're just making software. And it seemed like that just completely went out the window. So anyways, I don't mean to ramble. I do want to go into the Section 301 of the Clarity Act. Obviously, as I just said, we are seeing almost like a two-tiered, I don't want to say system per se, like we do have a two-tiered system on the broader perspective, but like, we're seeing one thing coming from the Trump administration. They're pro-Bitcoin, most Bitcoin-friendly administration ever, most pro-Bitcoin president ever. And then, the DOJ is still attacking Bitcoin developers here. And we're just got the Clarity Act markup. And we actually covered your tweet that was part of us when we were covering it. It's like, look, this might be a big win, but this also seems like there might be some back doors that aren't going to really help Bitcoiners in like at all at this point. It's like, maybe we don't want this bill. So could I can pull up your tweet if you want to use it for some notes here, because I do have it, but
I think I'm good.
Okay, all right, okay, yeah, you're a professional now. So what is the issue with what is your biggest concern with the phrasing and the wording that you heard from the Clarity Act?
So I'm just going to preface this with two things. First, I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. Like, this is just my simple novice reading of the way that this has been put, and having dealt with the legal system and seeing the way that they twist the wording of laws to suit and kind of go after however they want. So the issue that I pointed out and took issue with is you have the beginning part, and that is the standard BRCA that's been there from the beginning, the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, that has protections for developers. But then it gets to a point where it has this carve out, and it's carve out for 1960 B1C, which is the exact regulation that they have used to go after Keonne and Bill, as well as Roman Storm of Tornado Cash. And what that piece says is that, you know, you're knowingly transacting illicit funds. Well, you're not transacting because, as we said before, it's non-custodial. So how do you transact something you don't hold? But illicit funds, anyone who uses any kind of tool of any kind of merit knows that there are criminals that are going to use them. Say kitchen knives, we can say, you know, the internet as a whole, and of course, Bitcoin. So, you know, and when is a transaction complete? A transaction is complete when a miner includes it in the block. So really, it's just like opening up terrible precedent for Bitcoin as a whole. What some of the attorneys pointed out to in their saying, well, no, this is okay, just leave this in, is the fact that it says specific intent. So you have to have specific intent to knowingly include these things. But the way that they pointed to knowingly and specific intent, which is kind of what they did in our case and in Roman Storm's case, is, you know, Roman wore a meme t-shirt that had a washing machine on it. And, you know, Keonne's tweets of welcome new Russian oligarch users. They didn't point out the fact that there was at least 8 in that like meme welcome new users, some of them Fed users, Japan user, like it wasn't just, and also, you know, not to point out the fact that that was a post in English written on it, like it was clearly a joke, but those are the things that they will take and twist and use and say, see, these people had specific intent to commit this crime. I don't know how you get around that. And I directly asked some of these attorneys, because again, I'm not one, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I did not get a answer from any of them as to how, if this law was in place as written with this carve out for 1960 B1C, how it would have stopped the prosecution or the indictments of either the Samourai Wallet developers or Tornado Cash's Roman Storm. And I didn't receive an answer. So to me, if you're doing anything of merit, anything that they might think challenges their power, or, you know, and it's not necessarily this administration, but we have to remember these laws are in place for, the BSA was written in the 70s, and yet we're still having to deal with the consequences of that. So I don't, you know, to just be like, oh, these prosecutors are going to follow it as it's written, as we're interpreting it as like good people, and not interpret it in a malicious way. I question that, and that's what I was doing with that post.
Yeah, reasonable doubt, to say the least. You know, one law used by good guys may benefit you, but the same law used by bad guys, because it's vague enough, probably going to hurt more of us. And I mean, the act is literally called the Clarity Act, and we're starting to see, especially from a Bitcoiner's perspective, more pure Bitcoiner perspective, like what we'll do for Bitcoiners. It's becoming, or at least it's becoming obvious to me, that it's doing the opposite. We're not getting much clarity here. It seems like we're getting a lot of vague language that can potentially be shifted and, you know, massaged to hurt open source developers. And I did see a lot of Bitcoiners, like I saw Coin Center in particular, Bitcoin Policy Institute. Everyone kind of hit on that Section 301 segment, and then we kind of heard some rumors that there might have been some like backroom deals to get the developer protections out so that we can get the whole bill through, and some were like, no, it stayed in, it's a win. And I think just the fact that we are still just as ambiguous of what is going on, we're still just confused on what the process is right now. I think we're all starting to realize, like, wait, this is probably going to hurt us a lot more than benefit us at this point. And then further, you know, we currently have, like you said, you know, your husband and Bill, we have Bitcoin developers in jail right now, open source developers in jail right now. And if the Clarity Act passes, it's like, maybe it'll set a good precedent moving forward, but there's still casualties of this war going on currently. And It just makes you
Then
feel a little
Aldrich,
weird.
At our when we were on a panel together at the Bitcoin conference, and she said, you know, they're prisoners of war and they need to be freed for the war to be really over. And I just loved that saying, because it's true. I mean, you can leave no man behind, and currently they are behind there, and they're sitting in prison. So, you know, for the war to be over, and I understand that, you know, things I understand too well, I guess, that things within government are slow moving. And, you know, I think the administration was sincere, and President Trump is sincere in his desire to make America the Bitcoin capital of the world. But there's, you know, a lot of people within the lower ranks of government, I think, that are still very much anti-Bitcoin, and it's going to take a while to root them out. But they have to keep being loud and keep kind of saying that, you know, you had said that Bitcoiners as a group are maybe small, but within the US population, it's estimated between 35 and 70 million adult Americans own Bitcoin. That's a huge voting block, if you will. And so, you know, these politicians, I think, need to kind of realize that if they want Bitcoiners' votes and donations, they need to get serious about, you know, giving us what they've said that they are going to, and not just be beholden to the banks.
Yeah, 100%. I was kind of talking about that earlier on the show. It's like we were promised a lot, and we are a voting bloc. Like, there is a big political movement starting within Bitcoin and even crypto at large. And it does seem like, I use the word scam loosely here, but it does seem like we all got scammed for just the vote. And now that they're in power, they're like, you know, don't care what you guys think. We're going to do what we want to do anyways. And that's why I think a lot of us Bitcoiners are so just really burnt out with the political process. It's just like, it doesn't work anymore. I've been very adamant on the show. I'm like, voting doesn't work anymore. Like, that's not how we're going to fix this. But I'm also probably more of like a, you know, an extremist in a lot of my sayings on the show. But anyways, I do want to mention one thing, because it's kind of the thread that we've been talking about since these, you know, the Tornado Cash and the Samourai Wallet case kind of came to light. Was, even though we're being embraced by the Trump administration, you know, by Wall Street, it does seem like there is an attempt, or, I mean, in your husband's case, maybe they were successful, and unfortunately so, but it does seem like they are trying to eliminate the more, quote, radical elements of Bitcoin, just so that it can become this financial asset. And I think a lot of us maybe get lost in like, oh, we just want Bitcoin to win, where it's like, no, like, the stuff that Samourai Wallet was building is essential for Bitcoin to do what we think it will do. We cannot separate the cypherpunk ethos roots to just Wall Street. And we're currently still in that fight. And that's one of the things that I'm constantly thinking about. I'm like, man, you know, are we sacrificing a lot for number go up? And we are a news show, so we get yelled at constantly. It's like, you guys are cheerleading the Trump administration. You guys are cheerleading Wall Street. And I'm like, well, we're a Bitcoin news show. We're talking about what is happening in Bitcoin currently. And they're like, you guys are bootlickers. And we're like, I come on the show and I'm like, I'm not happy about this, but this is where we are. It's like, we're a Bitcoin news show. But I have noticed that, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well. Like, it does seem like the precedent's being set with the Samourai Wallet case of Tornado Cash to really try to eliminate the more, you know, radical cypherpunk roots of Bitcoin, just so that it can be a very benign, neutral financial asset that Wall Street can trade and make profits off of, and really doesn't fulfill the I don't want to say original idea, but it doesn't really fulfill what I thought Bitcoin was going to be, if this is the case, or this is the road that we're going. It's very unfortunate.
I'm going to push back slightly on the fact that we were the radicals, right? Because what Samourai offered in the tools was transactional privacy that allowed users, Bitcoin users, pretty much the same privacy that you would expect within the legacy system, right? In the legacy system, if you pay for your coffee with your debit card, the barista does not know your entire net worth or where you spent money last time. That's not the case with Bitcoin, because of the nature of the open ledger, which is such, a benefit, and it has so many great attributes. But the way people have been tying real world IDs, we've seen the ramifications of that, right? There's been an uptick year after year of violent attacks, and some cases have even resulted in death. So like, privacy should not be considered this extreme. And I do agree with you that that's how it's being framed by people, but it really shouldn't be. If anyone, thought for past the length of their nose kind of a thing, that what the implications of a completely open ledger where absolutely anyone with an internet connection can learn everything about your finances, is that really a world that they want to live in?
Yeah, that's one of the things. And I appreciate the pushback. Yeah, that was a good clarification. We're definitely in a world right now where it's the classic, why do you need privacy? What do you have to hide? And it's like, well, you have curtains in your house, and you don't want everything in your life to be exposed to the entire world. That's just not the world we all want to live in. And we have a couple of people on our Rumble chat. And we always joke he's like the reigning fiat maxi in our Rumble chat. And he's always like, Bitcoin is you guys are always pushing for the cashless society. And we're like, well, we very openly acknowledge that, look, Bitcoin can be a tool for freedom, but if we don't use the right tools, or rather don't build the right tools, it can literally be our golden cage, and it's not going to really benefit us in the freedom money aspect. Like, there's still a lot of work to be done here, because if it's not done correctly, or rather if the powers that be are able to shut down all of the privacy wallets, the Samourai wallets of the world, then we are all going to be tracked and bagged. We know they want to do a CBDC, digital ID. It's like, it's a very Orwellian future that I don't want to live in. And hence why when the Samourai wallet case came up, the Tornado Cash came up, we're like, guys, you may not realize how important this is, but this is absolutely huge. And it's not setting a good precedent for the future. It's actually kind of terrifying me where we could potentially be going. And it's just, man, sometimes you do feel like everything we do is hopeless, but in that you're like, no, we got to keep fighting. We got to keep educating people, keep using our microphones so that more people can hear this story and hear what's going on. So on that note, Lauren, I do want to give you a moment to talk to the audience directly and let them know, is there anything that they can do for you? What is the call of action here? What do you want the people to keep in the back of their head, or, go to what website, all that stuff? Like, we want our audience to get involved and help you out in any way possible.
Yeah, thank you so much. First, I will say, your voice matters. If you're sitting there thinking like, wow, this sucks, but what can I do? Get loud. Tell people about it, about this case, about the other cases that are going on, and educate them. Right? If you're watching this show, you've obviously have a grasp on this situation, and share that, post about it, tell people that aren't terminally online that there's these risks out there. And also, if you're willing to, please go to billandkeonne.org. That's BILLANDKEONNE.org. There you can find links to sign our petition calling for a presidential pardon. I think it's really warranted. These were novel theories put out in this case, and they go directly against the president's own stated, goals of making America the Bitcoin capital of the world. He's himself has experienced the Southern District of New York going after him and his family. So, like, if he were to be aware of this case, I think he would grant pardons and see the injustice of it. Also, there's a link that you can donate to help the cause, where, fighting a court case is incredibly expensive, even though we didn't get that far in it. They estimate to take a complex case to trial within the Southern District of New York, you should expect to pay about $13 million per defendant.
Wow.
We never had that kind of money. And that's probably why they bring these cases within the Southern District of New York. It's another tactic to, because they know it's the most expensive place to hold a trial or to hold any kind of legal, support and backup. So we're massively in debt. So if you're willing to donate, that, would be a huge help as well. So, well, yeah, just speak up.
Lauren, thank you so much for coming on. One thing I do want to mention, and it's probably not the the best example, but it is very interesting how now you're the privacy activist. And I don't know the story behind the scenes, but the chat for a little bit was like, man, it's so awesome to have a Bitcoiner wife. I'm going to guess that maybe you weren't the hardcore Bitcoiner, and I'm not like in the extreme case here, but like being the Bitcoin advocate. But now throughout the process of obviously this case and your husband and everything he's been through, it does remind me a lot of Lynn Ulbricht and Ross Ulbricht, where because of the situation that her son was in, she has been one of the golden spokespersons for Bitcoin over the years. And hopefully in this case, it won't be the same long drawn out battle here. Hopefully we can get some light at the end of the tunnel for you and your family and Keonne and Bill and every other, I would say, political prisoner here that has been caught up in the privacy wars that we currently find ourselves in. So Lauren, my heart goes out to you. I really wish you the best. I wish Keonne the best. And chat, everyone in the chat, guys, spread the message. Go to the billandkeonne.org. I put in the chat for you guys. Let's definitely continue to rally around not only the Samourai Wallet devs, but obviously Bitcoin Fog, Tornado Cash, all the open source developers. And you guys know, like, we will continue to cover these stories on the show. I know sometimes you guys yell at us and they're like, why are you covering this? This is very important, guys. This is very important for the future of Bitcoin, for you as an individual, and where this industry is going. We cannot forget the Bill and the Keonnes and the Roman Storms, because we didn't forget about Ross, okay? And hey, we got Ross out with Trump. Might be the only good thing that Trump has done up to this point. That's my words, not Lauren's. But yeah, I'm really, it just, my heart goes out to you just talking about this, but I'm glad you came on today. I'm glad that you are a little more optimistic than I am in the fight. And I think sometimes we need those reminders of why we do what we do. And I think you're a living example of that, Lauren. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Plug the socials and the website one more time, and I will wrap up today's show.
Website is billandkeonne.org, billandkeonne.org. And my social, unfortunately, I made it when I was a private person, and it was locked down, so I never really made it to share, but it's yeah, you can find me on there if you look.
Okay. All right, Lauren. Well, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate it. My heart goes out to you and your family. And I hope that we can have some meaningful change here, and that things will change for the better. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, Lauren, see you later. Guys, you already know the deal. It's the end of the show. We will see you tomorrow. Oh, actually, I almost forgot. Make sure you get yourself a ticket to the Mining Disrupt Conference in Miami, Florida. July 21st, 23rd this year, 2026. So what's that? About a month away? No, 2 months away. 2 months from now in Miami, Mining Disrupt, the largest Bitcoin mining conference in the world. I think we're going to be doing a live stream from the floor. So I will actually be at this conference. If you want to learn about mining, if you want to learn of maybe is it more profitable to mine Bitcoin than just buy Bitcoin, why you should be mining Bitcoin, where the mining industry is going, where we currently stand, make sure you go to the Mining Disrupt. Again, largest mining Bitcoin conference in the world, July 21st to the 23rd, 2026 in Miami, Florida. If you use the promo code, scan it, 20% off, Simply Bitcoin as the promo code. All right, guys. Well, what a show. All right, what a show. It's just there's still a lot of work to be doing, guys. I know we have the meme of, Bitcoin already won. That's not the case. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of education to be had. There's still a lot of Bitcoin activism to be had. We still have a long road ahead of us. Yes, it's a bear market, but bear markets are for building. And we will get to incredible price moves one day soon. But but during this journey, during this process, we cannot lose what we all loved about Bitcoin in the first place. I think today's show is one of those shows where, yeah, you know, I started maybe a little doomerish. I speculated a little bit, but towards the end, it's kind of a reminder of why we do what we do, why we Bitcoin in the first place. What are the stakes here? What are the goals? I know I troll a lot, but there is a serious bone inside of me. Okay, wait, pause. I do have a little bit of seriousness here, guys. So I really hope you guys enjoyed that show. Again, shouts out to Lauren Rodriguez, wife of Keonne Rodriguez of Samourai Wallet. Go to billandkeonne.org. I did drop it. Actually, I'm going to drop it in the description for you guys right when I end this show. So it'll be there. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another show of Simply Bitcoin Live. On that note, peace out, guys. Stack some Bitcoin. Later, man.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.